Welcome back to the Alight podcast. Some of you listeners may know us formerly as Humans and Earth, and I'm really happy to be here with you now as the Alight podcast. And today I am interviewing Rabia Jones, who is a clinical herbalist and sees clients one-on-one, also teaches herbalism courses, and with whom I've been collaborating this year on teaching some really fun in-person workshops on intuition and herbs and plant communication here in the Philadelphia area. So it's been really fun to do that teaching with Rabia, and I thought it would be lovely to bring her on the podcast because she primarily is working virtually right now, at least with her one-on-one clients. She's a resource for anyone who might want to work one-on-one with an herbalist. And then, of course, here in the Philadelphia area, she has all kinds of in-person offerings. So welcome, Rabia. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Shara, for having me.
So tell us how you got here. What was your pathway to becoming a clinical herbalist?
So, I more or less kind of always wanted to be an herbalist, which I think is kind of uncommon in our field in general, in this like kind of like holistic or spiritually minded field of medicine. But I think herbalism in particular obviously is very niche, and kind of more of an obscure path. But fortunately, I was raised, both of my parents were and are very holistically minded. Um, my dad is a gardener and is really passionate about growing food and medicinal plants as well. And my mom actually did do an herbalism program when she was in her 20s. So I was just sort of brought up with it. Um, and yeah, pretty much by the time that I was in high school, I knew that I wanted to be an herbalist and was sort of figuring out how to make that happen because there's not, you know, it's not the kind of thing that you just go to a college near you and get a bachelor's in herbal medicine. There's really only one school, as far as I'm aware, still that offers a bachelor's degree in herbal medicine, but it's on the West Coast, and I'm pretty sure you have to transfer into it from already having like an associate's degree.
Is that Baster or
Last
Baster?
year, yeah.
Baster, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they've changed it now where it is like a full 4-year program, but at the time, yeah, you had to do 2 years of school or get an associate's and then transfer. And it basically was, I just didn't want to go that route. I wanted to just dive in and really start studying herbalism. And fortunately, there are so many amazing, in-depth, multiple year long programs, even way more now than when I was looking. But even at the time, it was sort of like, okay, I've got options here. Um, so yeah, that was kind of my path. I was brought up with a lot, learning a lot about plants. I learned about a lot of medicinal plants from as early as I can remember. I just had this real like core natural inherent interest in holistic medicine. I remember one of the first books that I read about holistic medicine was that book by Dr. Vasant Lad, who's an Ayurvedic practitioner. I forget what it's called. It's called like Ayurveda, Basics of Ayurveda or something like that. And I read it when I was like 11 for the first time. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, and
I was reading stuff like that at that age too.
yeah,
Interesting. I also had very holistic parents. My mom studied herbalism casually. So I grew up with all of it. And those were my fun books when I
yeah,
was like in
me
middle
too.
school. Yeah.
I know I was reading books. I was reading that Ayurveda book. I was reading books about crystals and crystal therapy. I was reading books about palmistry and then like started reading more books about herbalism. I just like really like couldn't get enough Astrology too is another thing that I was raised with, and really studied a lot growing up, and continue to do so now. So all of it, I just was so interested in and immersed in. And then, yeah, it was just sort of like that was my path. And I feel very fortunate that my parents were like, great, do you know? They,
So many parents would be flipping out and saying, you pick a nice 4-year university and then
yeah,
you do that on the side.
yeah, exactly. My parents were like, no, it's okay. Like they never put pressure on me to go to college because, I didn't want to. And they never put pressure on me to change my course of direction either. They were both very supportive and loved the fact that this is what I wanted to do. So, you know, all that being said, I just jumped straight into it. I did my first herbalism program at 18, pretty much right out of high school. And that was a community herbalist program. One thing that I did have trouble with, which is still, um, I think, kind of oddly a challenge in this area, is that I couldn't find an in-person program. I actually remember I applied to an in-person program that was being offered by this massage. It was like massage and a couple of other holistic forms of medicine, um, in Camden, like just over the bridge in New Jersey. And I applied to it and got in. And then a couple of weeks before it started, I got an email from them and they had decided to permanently close the herbalism offering because I guess I didn't have enough traction for it. Um, but I just remember that moment of being like, wow, this is so weird to me, especially now as a practicing herbalist. I meet people every day who are like just thrilled that I'm offering herbal medicine, um, workshops and education. And people
Well,
who
what
are,
I think is so strange is even our mainstream grocery stores are have a substantial herbal supplement section.
yeah,
So
yeah,
given that herbs are so available now,
yeah.
even in really mainstream grocery stores, it's quite odd that you can't easily find training in how to use them.
Yeah, it is odd to me too. I think that there's almost this sort of like mass cognitive dissonance sometimes around herbalism where often, I'll tell people ask me what I do, I'll say I'm an herbalist and I often get like, what is that? What do you do? And which is so interesting to me because most people are very, most people have peppermint and chamomile tea in their cabinets or have taken ginger for, you know, having indigestion or upset tummy, or are taking a sleep supplement that's got valerian in it. Like, I think people are working with herbs and interacting with herbal medicine, a lot of folks on a day-to-day basis. And
Or all this supplement craze that we're
yes,
in. And I don't mean to demean it because I do like my supplements.
me too.
I think people can overdo it, but I mean, you can find an article almost everywhere you turn, even in fairly mainstream publications, on
Yeah,
try gotu kola for this or
yeah,
ginseng for that or chamomile. Or there's actually an onslaught right now of recommendations for safe, gentle herbal supplementation, and yet
yeah.
still so many people are not kind of aware or clued in. It's really interesting.
It's really interesting. And I think I suspect, and I've gotten comments that kind of allude to this before, that I think a lot of folks just don't realize that this can be your job. Like you can be the one behind the education or the formulation or the recommendation side of it. Because even if people are familiar with herbal medicine, I still get the question like, oh yeah, I love these, a couple of herbs that I take, but what do you actually do for your job, as an herbalist? Um, so yeah, and then I think that leads to this kind of like people don't realize that you can go through an educational program and then work as an herbalist. Um, so yeah, why did I start saying that? Oh, because I wanted to I really wanted to take an in-person program. That didn't really end up happening. The first program that I took was what's called a community herbalist program. Usually in herbal education, there's sort of, especially with these like multiple year long, if your trajectory is to become a clinical herbalist, there's sort of like the family herbalist, which is you study enough and have enough familiarity to work with your family or friends to give, recommendation, make remedies for your own family. And then there's the community herbalist arc, which is sort of, you teach within your community, you sell remedies to your community. And then there's the clinical herbalist arc, which is then you work in a clinical setting, you see clients. Because in herbal medicine in this country is not at all regulated, and there's no licensure, it's kind of it's not very there's no real like black and white rules around what criteria you need to be either one of these levels of an herbalist. But there is an organization, the AHG, American Herbalist Guild, and they kind of lay out their recommendations for criteria. And that's what I followed for my studies. So I did this community herbalist program that was through Sky House School of Yoga and Herbs, which now doesn't, well, I think she moved and now it's sort of different, but she's still offering herbal medicine education. But at the time, it was in Silver Springs, Maryland. So it was mostly online, but I was able to go down there a few times and have some like in person, in community with other people experience. And then after I did that, I did Dr. Low Dog's Foundations in Herbal Medicine program, which was very intensive and rigorous. And that was fully online. And because of that, I really wanted to have some in person working with plants physically with other people education, which is what led me to do the horticulture program that I did. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear wonderful things about Dr. Low Dog's program, that it's just really comprehensive. She, of course, has an MD and has practiced as both a medical doctor and a Native American indigenous plant expert
Yeah.
herbalist. So that must have been really amazing to train with her.
Yeah, she is amazing. One of the things that I love the most about her is that she was an herbalist first and then became a doctor much later in life. So she comes from this really like her practice is really rooted in her knowledge and experience as an herbalist and a healer that works with plants.
Just like Aviva Jill Ram, who
Yes.
was the herbalist who influenced me in my 20s. And when I was pregnant and having babies, I was so immersed in Aviva Jill Ram's books, and then, fascinated to watch her go to Yale and get an MD. So I think it's just good to highlight their names, because if listeners want to learn from expert herbalists who've published books and have the medical qualification as well, Dr. Low Dog and Dr. Ram are wonderful authors.
Yeah, they are both amazing resources and amazing women who just have this incredibly well-rounded, integrated approach to medicine, which is why I chose her program because I had also had experience working in a couple of medical offices, and I really wanted to be able to have that knowledge and not feel like if I met with somebody and they were on multiple prescription meds, and they brought me a bunch of lab work that I would be like, I don't really know what to do with that because, I didn't get any training around that. And so Dr. Low Dog's program um, was just really integrative, really went through, in addition to all of the information about herbalism, she went through nutrition, she went through labs, she went through supplementation, she talked about pathologies and about pharmaceuticals. So it was just a really amazing program. I couldn't recommend it enough. If someone's ready to take the next step and really do become a clinical herbalist and do a very clinical program around herbalism, hers is really good. Yeah.
So you've been in private practice and also teaching for several years now. What are you finding clients are looking for, and students? I mean, feel free to speak to either. When people come to you seeking either to receive an herbal consultation or learn about working with herbs, what do you think people are looking for right now?
I think right now, especially, but also this has been fairly consistent throughout my years as a practitioner. I think that people really want to know how to heal themselves more than ever. And I think in my field as an herbalist, because herbal medicine is such a tangible form of medicine, um, I think people are really, really interested in how can I do this myself? And also really want this like true root cause based medicine. And I think, I meet with a lot of people, clients and students alike, who are really tired of symptom management and also tired of feeling dismissed or not having a good explanation of what's going on with them, or just kind of like treading water.
Or not being given, I mean, I think you kind of said this, but I just wanted to highlight not being given a pathway to take an active role in their own well-being. And it does not surprise me that there's a resurging interest in herbalism and natural therapies at the same time as a lot of spiritual teachers and astrologers are saying, we are coming into this age of a new level of human sovereignty and empowerment, where, I mean, of course, there's usually a part of all of us who would like to be handed a quick fix, but a lot of us realize the quick fix is problematic in and of itself, or it doesn't work, or it's not satisfying, or it leaves us feeling left out of our own picture. And so I really see in the very biggest, grand scheme of things, that the people who are seeking your expertise are wanting to be more empowered in their own wellness.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really one of the key words, is that people are disempowered in the current like Western medical structure very often, and want to feel empowered. And like one of the most amazing things about herbalism that I experience as a practitioner and witness happen to clients and students is this kind of feeling of like, if you find an herb that works well for you and you develop a relationship with that herb, often you can also buy seeds of that plant, plant it in your backyard, watch it grow, harvest medicine from it, and make the medicine yourself. And it's sort of like there's hardly anything really that's more empowering than that in the field of medicine, in my opinion, is this ability to really just be an active part in every single part of what ends up becoming your medicine from start to finish. And then also that leads you into a whole other experience of reconnecting with the earth and um, strengthening your relationship with nature, which I think is just a really important part of healing in general for most people. Um, so yeah, just like you said, being an active participant in people's own journey of healing, I think is something that people really crave.
when when you've been teaching your group classes on herbalism, do you consider that you're teaching people to like to start as family herbalists
Yeah.
is kind of the entry level there where they're caring for themselves and maybe family and friends.
Yeah.
What's been most interesting or surprising to you as you've taught those herbalism classes?
Um, I mean, the first thing that came popped in my head is just watching people fall kind of like head over heels for herbal medicine has been at times, and it's funny because I am too, right? I'm an herbalist. I'm totally head over heels for plants and for um, plant medicine and everything under the umbrella of herbal medicine. But to witness it happen for other people who are sort of like, you know, basically, I have an itch for herbal medicine and I sign up for your class to scratch it, all to then be like, oh my God, I think this is my calling, is has just been like amazing to witness. Um, and also just to watch as people become more knowledgeable and more comfortable working with herbalism and with plants as medicine. I think often kind of what stands in the way for people is they're a little maybe nervous to work to make medicine out of plants, which is fair. Um, but it sort of like prevents them from being curious and playing and just creating remedies or just trying something. And so teaching these programs and witnessing people just start to have more comfort. And then because of that, like, I've had multiple experiences where people have said, I was feeling really called to this herb and I made a tincture of it. And then I started taking it. And now I'm not having insomnia anymore, is just like the coolest thing in the world to me. Like when people have start to feel empowered and start to feel this comfort level, and then it also kind of simultaneously activates their own intuition and their intuitive relationship with the plants that they're working with to then kind of just know inherently what their body needs and then to be able to craft that medicine and then work with it and then it works is just like it blows my mind every single time it happens. Even though I know consciously and every single day I'm reminded how well herbs work, it's still like every time it happens, I'm like, I almost can't even believe this happened, you know? It's just, it's awesome. It's an awesome thing to witness.
I love that you talked about that because it makes me want to just draw a little more attention to what you're already saying, which is that as you and I have been talking with the people who've taken our workshops this summer, everyone can be intuitive in some way. And of course, there's, scientific research on the various human intuitive capacities, but there are really so many ways into that development of your own intuition. And there are all kinds of spiritual and meditative pathways and different kinds of trainings that people can do. But this very like grounded, embodied, earth-oriented path of working with plants is such a wonderful way to not only learn about the natural world and benefit your own physical body and emotional well-being, but also maybe surprisingly to a lot of people to start expanding those intuitive abilities that really are right and an inherent part of the human being.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I think it is just another kind of avenue. And I think for certain people, again, this kind of like I'm a huge lover and believer in Reiki and energy medicine and intuitive practices and all of this stuff. But I think sometimes for people who are coming from sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, something like working with herbal medicine because it's physical and it's tangible, you can see it, you can taste it, you can have this sensory experience with it is can be kind of like a gateway for people to then enter and open up into this world of, you know, work or medicine or experiences that are outside of our five senses.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's really, really true. What would you like to see more people learning about plants and herbs? Like um, if you could kind of set a standard or a goal of different kinds of awarenesses or engagement that you think more people would access, how would you phrase that?
So, probably two things. One is just that everyone would have a basic knowledge of like what is typically in your kitchen that's medicinal. I think we all generally in our kitchens have a multitude of foods and spices that are also herbal medicines and generally, I think a lot of folks have no idea that they're kind of have this treasure trove of medicine in their kitchen that's very safe and just an amazing way to start working with herbs. I just taught 2 days ago a fire cider making workshop. And I love teaching about making fire cider because it's like, it really is just ingredients that you have in your refrigerator, usually, and in your spice cabinet. And then you throw them together and put vinegar and honey on them. And it's really safe and simple and effective. And a traditional remedy that's been used for thousands of years. And it's still just knowledge that kind of has been lost. Um, so that's one thing. And the second thing is I would love if everyone could identify the medicinal plants that are growing in their region because that's another treasure trove that exists everywhere. I mean, in most people's yards, they have 10 different species of medicinal plants. Um, and it's just more knowledge that's been sort of systemically stripped or lost, you know. Uh,
Well, and that I'm really glad that you brought that point up because a big focus of this podcast and my work over the last few years has been the human earth relationship. And it's become so clear, I know, to a lot of us that you can't just tell people to take care of our planet if they have no relationship with it. And of course, it's very exotic and tempting to talk about some far away endangered species. And I mean, I'm into that. I care about that. I love the plants and animals of this whole earth. But knowing what is of value in your own area that you can be in relationship with
yeah.
is just such a big piece of like feeling more connected to your body, the place where you live, the environment, the resources, the plants, the sun, the
Yeah.
water, the bees, all of that. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah. I think it's I think we're all kind of conditioned to have this relationship with our like our own sort of region or ecosystem where we just look at it like it's separate from us, you know? It's like if you go for a walk in the woods, it's like going to the plant zoo or something, you know? You just walk through and observe. and that plants have to behave a certain way for us to care about them. So all of our weeds and our invasive plants and our plants that are messy looking or, you know, take over our lawn. Um, it's sad to me because a lot of those plants are food or medicine or provide essential habitat for the other creatures that we cohabitate with in this region. And because we don't know about them, those plants, who they are, we can't identify them. We don't know anything about their medicine or the food that they offer. We hold no reverence for them. And then that ends up becoming, we don't have reverence for the nature that's directly like outside our door. Um, and I feel like in my own path of becoming an herbalist, it's like every plant that I can identify and relate to just gives me more and more of this sense of reverence for nature because I can see the like just the importance of every, individual species.
I love that. And we need that if we're going to stop spraying pesticides and, covering our front yards with asphalt, as you occasionally see people do. Like,
Yeah.
it's, we need that relationship. We need that reverence in order to take care of Earth's body and our own body.
Yeah.
So I really am intrigued by your experience growing up in our culture, not only in the US, but you happen to have been born and lived in a very kind of intellectually, academically focused region where there are colleges and universities everywhere. I'm so intrigued by your experience of knowing so clearly that you were going to be on your own path and it was the plant medicine path and you would find whatever training was feasible and then launch yourself in your early 20s as a clinical herbalist. I'm guessing that probably some of your friends are on a comparable holistic path, and probably some of your friends are trying to figure out how to make a life with their 4-year degrees. I don't know. So I'm just curious what it's been like for you in your 20s, not only to be on this, I mean, I don't consider it an alternative path, but a lot of people would consider it an alternative path. As I said, in a very professionally focused urban academic region, and probably with friends who are on all the different paths.
Mhm.
What's that been like?
Well, I think at first, like I remember at first when I graduated high school and was, like I'm going to become an herbalist, I had so much pushback from everyone except for my family. Um, but everyone else that I told was just like, what are you talking about? This is not a sustainable career option. Um, I had a lot of friends' parents really try very hard to encourage me to go to college instead. And I just knew so strongly that that wasn't right. And I also can be quite stubborn. So I was just sort of like, no, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it. And again, I'm just grateful that my parents were really supportive because that really helped a lot. Um, and yeah, I would say that since I've been practicing, it's been interesting because I do have I have an amazing community of people, all different ages, who are practitioners, who are friends of mine, mentors of mine. Um, and I'm so grateful for that. But in terms of kind of my own peers, people my age, I don't know that I could say any of my close friends have the same kind of job that I have. It's an interesting thing to see. And I do see people that are kind of in my age range, having been out of college and also even been out of grad school and kind of like trying to figure it out now. And it's just made me realize how much, whether you get a PhD or a master's or a bachelor's or no college degree at all, ultimately at some point, you still have to just try to figure it out because it's everyone has to go through, you know, this life with no guarantees of anything. Like, no matter how much, and I was told over and over and over again, getting a college degree would guarantee me um, occupational success.
Mm.
And I mean, that's just objectively, I don't think that's true. Um, and, you know, so I am grateful that I kind of stuck with my gut and just followed the path that I wanted to follow and felt was right in following. But I will say that I think one of the kind of maybe key, I don't know, differences or just something that I feel because of how my path has gone that I feel like my experience in life is a little bit different is that the decisions that I make and have made for years have all been very strongly based on my intuition and not very strongly based on what is logically the right decision um or you know what other people have told me would be the right decision to make. And I do see that. I think when you go to college, it's kind of easy to get sort of stuck on this conveyor belt of, this is the right order of steps. This is the structure that you need to follow to attain success. And I think my experience with learning and my education and then with working is that it's been a lot more fluid and there is no set path really to become an herbalist. So it's all just been this kind of like very fluid ride.
Love that you're not only succeeding with that, but just kind of modeling that for other people because um of course it's totally fine to be on a more conventional path, and I mean we all are in some ways, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're living in a developed country with electricity and Wi-Fi, then at least to some degree you're on a conventional path. But while that's completely fine, my own sense is that the way that we're going to transform the kind of problems we're facing in the world right now with human health and the environment and social issues and political issues is for people to develop that inner compass and intuition more and actually listen to it as a key source of information and guidance. So
Yeah.
I love that you're modeling that and that you're talking about it. And it's been really fun to teach the classes that we've taught together so far.
Yeah.
So I'd love it if you would feel free to tell us anything else you want to share before we close, and or just how people can find you if they want to work with you either locally in the Philadelphia area or remotely for an herbal consultation.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know. I guess I just want to say, encourage people to, if you're kind of interested in working with herbs or herbal medicine, to really just go for it. I feel really, really strongly that working with the plants that are in your area is everyone's birthright. Like everyone should really, in my ideal world, everyone would have knowledge and relationship with the plants that are around them as medicine, as food, um, and have it again because we all did used to have it, and now it's largely just sort of being stripped or lost, like I said before. So I feel like as we're moving into this kind of very different age, I do feel like this is a really important part is for people to reconnect with the earth in this way. And I always am just like very try to be as encouraging as I can to people in pursuing that because I think it's really important. So yeah. Um, and yeah, if anyone wants to work with me as a client or as a student, everything's on my website, which is rabiasremedies.com. It's my business name. And I am offering over the winter in the Philadelphia area two 3-month long medicine making programs. Uh, and that'll be up on my website very shortly. I also am constantly offering workshops all around the greater Philadelphia area. My longer term programs will be in media, but the workshops that I offer are in various locations. And I do meet with all of my clients virtually. All of the information for that is on my website as well. And I also offer now, which is sort of a newer thing over the past 6 months, one-on-one mentoring sessions, which is something that I've been asked for a lot over the past year. And that's been really amazing to do, for people who want to do kind of like a deep dive on something, or for other kinds of practitioners who want to be able to incorporate some herbalism into their practice. My one-on-one mentoring sessions are kind of perfect for that.
Neat. Really neat. Thank you so much, Rabia. It
Yeah.
was great to talk with you today, and I'm excited to see how your offerings keep unfolding.
Thank you, Shara. I really appreciate it.